Hey everyone, Anthony here, and this week's video is going to be a tour of my camera collection. I've been interested in photography and filmmaking for pretty much my whole life, since I was like 3 maybe, so all of those years have resulted in a pretty sizable collection of cameras, as I'm sure you can see. Basically what's going to happen next is I'm going to go over all of them, yes, all of them, one by one, talk about them a little bit, and pretty much just show off, because I friggin' love cameras. Okay. So to start, we have this camera right here. This is a Kodak Easyshare CX6200. This is a really old digital camera. This was actually my first camera ever. Pretty much my whole childhood was spent with this in my hand. It only records video for 30 seconds, so for a long time that was how I shot video, was just 30-second clips. But yeah, this camera is how I got started in photography. A lot of fond memories associated with this one. This right here in this Case Logic bag is actually my second camera ever. This is a Coolpix point and shoot from like 2007. I filmed a ton of my early short films with this. They were really bad, by the way. Man, this thing has seen a lot of use. Like, the buttons are all worn out, like the OK button is done. There are scratches all over the body. I'm a little surprised it still works. And then moving on, we have my third camera ever. This one actually belonged to my mom before she gave it to me. This is a Canon Powershot S5 IS. This was a pretty big step up from the Coolpix. Really fancy for me at the time. Not so much anymore because it's really old. It does have a flippy screen as well. Flippy screens are always very helpful. In fact, the camera I'm using right now has one, and that's how I'm seeing myself. This camera right here is a $30 GoPro knockoff. Yes, $30. It's actually not too crazy bad for $30. But it's also not great. This is a Lightdow camera. I have no idea what Lightdow means, honestly. My guess is that the manufacturers thought it sounded cool. It comes with rechargeable batteries, a ton of accessories. It also has a little screen on the back, if you can see it in the light right there, which for $30 was a surprising addition. Next up, I do have an actual GoPro right here. This is a really old base Hero model. It doesn't even come out of the case. There's no screen on the back. The bad thing about this not being able to come out of its case is that if the case gets broken, you're screwed. As you can see, it's kind of broken right here, and I attempted to super glue it back together, but I broke it for good this time. Okay, so now you can get a better look at how broken it is. So like, I don't know how it broke in the first place. I just unscrewed it from a mount one day and it was broken, which was rather unfortunate. And then I have a third action camera. This one I actually reviewed on my channel a while back. This is the Eken H9R. This is a 4K action camera for $60. And to be honest, it kind of sucks. It just really hasn't been the most reliable camera. For $60, you do get quite a few accessories. You get a very big screen on the back. Regrettably, it just doesn't work that well. But yeah, this is my third and final action camera. Why do I need 3 action cameras? I don't, but they're just a fun little thing to collect because they are really cheap these days. So yeah, there you go. Next up is this. This is a vintage Nikon camera, and it is completely and totally broken. If I open it up, you can see that like the shutter is like completely frozen, I guess, in place. The self timer on this thing does work, so I mean, that's something. Now, that camera did come with a couple of lenses, and this is the first one. This is a 50mm prime. And the nice thing about Nikon is that its lens mount hasn't changed. So like all of the old Nikon lenses do work with modern Nikon cameras, and I shoot with a Nikon camera. I'm using the Nikon D5600 right now. But yeah, if I want to, I can just pop on this vintage lens, no problem, and use it to take pictures. I mean, the second lens that came with the broken vintage Nikon is this guy. This is a Vivitar telephoto lens. And I actually did a video on this too, back in the early days of my channel. So if you want to go watch that, please do. I don't use this one too much just because it's just huge. It's like unnecessarily huge and really hard to take around. And this is the pouch that it comes in. A lot of old lenses come in these like really nice leather cases, which I like. Next up in my vintage camera collection is this Canon AE1 program. It's also broken. I've heard only good things about the AE1 program. Apparently it was just really easy and fun to use and popularized photography among the masses. I don't know, that's what I've heard. I do have an actual working Canon camera. This is the Canon T-70. I have shot a little bit with this guy, and it's pretty cool. It is motorized, and actually if I open up the back real quick, you can see, take a look in there, but then if I close it, it actually rewinds itself. So that's pretty cool and pretty helpful. This so far has been my favorite vintage camera, mostly because it actually works. Next up is this guy. This is a Pentax Honeywell. It's got another 50mm lens on front. A lot of vintage cameras come with 50mm lenses as the kit lens, which is actually really nice because prime lenses like this are a lot nicer than the kit lenses that come with most cameras these days. The Pentax is in this leather case right here, but if I unscrew it, I do think it looks a little nicer without the case, but that's just my personal opinion. Continuing on, we have this guy. This is a Pentax IQZoom 735. This was also my mom's, I believe. It's a very loud camera though. Like listen to that. Like. All right. So next up is this Polaroid iZone camera. It's kind of a funny looking camera, and that's really all I know about it. My siblings like to play around with it, and it frequently ends up in my room anyway, so I thought it was a worthwhile inclusion. Moving on, we've got this interesting camera. This is an Olympia camera. I have never heard of Olympia until I got this camera, and it's like really cheaply built too. Like, it's supposed to look like a professional camera, but it doesn't feel like it. Let me know in the comments if you know what Olympia is and if it's still around as a camera company. Not Olympus. I know Olympus is an actual camera company, but Olympia, yeah. Something else I forgot to talk about earlier is this lens right here. This is a lens, this is a telephoto lens for the Pentax Honeywell, and it is a really, really nice lens. The way lenses attach to the Pentax is a little interesting. There's no button to press like on most cameras. It just literally just screws on and locks into place. But yeah, there you go. It creates, like, look at that. That is a classy camera. I also have in this pouch a Canon, what is this? A Canon SureShot. I thought it was like a Canon Easyshot, but no, this is a Canon SureShot. I really like the way this lens opens. Look at that. Very fancy. This is a film camera, so the film goes in the back, and then you press the button on the back, and the flash just pops up. So that's pretty cool. Still works. So then I can just turn it off. There's a little switch right by the lens, and then I can just put it away and move on to the next camera. These two cameras are the oldest ones in my collection. At least one of them was my grandfather's in college, 1960s at least. Looking at the overall aesthetic, like, it makes me think of like those retro themed diners, because this is a camera from the 1960s. Then I've got the other old Kodak right here. I think this one is a lot older. I was told this was my great-grandfather's. This one is fairly similar to the last one, again with that very nice retro feel. So there you go, my two vintage Kodaks. I still have to do a little more research on them and find out, you know, exactly what models they are, what they do, how they work, but they still do make very nice looking additions to my collection. So I'm pretty set. A couple of other random stuff I've got. This is a Minolta 28 to 80 lens. I don't know why I have it. I don't even have a Minolta camera, but it does look like this is meant for a digital camera because it's got those gold contacts on the back. But yeah, if I ever acquire a Minolta camera, I mean, I've got this lens for it, so. And then in this fancy cloth pouch right here, I have my Nikon 35mm prime lens for this camera right here. It's a very nice lens. I use it for most of my B-roll. It's a very sharp lens, first of all, and it creates a very nice blurry background. My phone still counts as a camera, right? This is a Galaxy S8, so an older model, but it still works, takes pretty good pictures, and I also occasionally use it for my YouTube videos because it does shoot 4K. This is a pretty good phone, pretty good camera, solid all around. I really can't complain. And yeah, that's all my cameras. Wow, gosh, that took a lot longer than I was hoping. Let me know in the comments which one of these cameras was the most interesting to you, or if you've had personal experience with any of these cameras and have any tips and tricks you'd like to share, feel free to leave that in a comment as well. I'll do my best to reply to as many of the comments as possible, but again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.